Postdoc, applying evidence-based entrepreneurship to fabrication research. And I won't go through all the thanks, but I do want to thank Divya, Patil, Hangargekar from the Center for Entrepreneurship, who has really been leading us through this. So postdoc, for those of you who aren't familiar with the project, is a material research project that Thom and I have been working on for several years, which is basically taking waste plastics and combining it with aggregates to make a new building material. But we got to the point where we were trying to imagine how this could actually have impact beyond installations and kind of one-off projects. So how could we turn this experimental material into an actual building product? And so what we had kind of imagined is that we would just continue to scale up from the kind of experiments that we were doing here in the school to a post-rock building. But what it actually has looked like for us is way more complicated, and I won't be able to unpack all of it today, but we thought we could kind of offer a little bit of what we've gone through, because we see it as maybe a model for other designers who also have similar ambitions. So a little bit of background, with the Research Through Making grant in 2015, we started simulating a material called plastaglomerate. This exists. This is rocks that are forming out of waste plastics in the ocean, combining with sand and seashells and rocks. So we were speculating on how this could be a solution for all the waste plastics if we started building with this. And so we started very small and we worked our way up. The research kind of entered our practice with team, and we built this large column as the kind of first full-scale instantiation of it. We realized we had some IP, so we started working with the Office of Tech Transfer to file for a patent. And they sort of, asked us these questions that made us return to what is the application, because the patent is what's called a process patent, not a kind of product patent. So the question remained, what do we do with this process? How do we apply it? So prototyping tomorrow, thank you, Jonathan, came at the right moment for us, which was, how do we make this into a product? So that kicked off a series of introductions and meetings, the Office of Business Engagement and also Center for Entrepreneurship, who we decided would be a good partner in trying to answer this question. They introduced us to a course that's called Introduction to Customer Discovery, which is part of the I-Core and SF curriculum. We did this in the summer of 2018. And this is based on evidence-based entrepreneurship, which is a systematic approach to business development that emphasizes learning at the early stages. So you want to know a lot before you sink time and resources into your company. So you gather information from different sources in order to challenge or verify your business proposition. So this means going out and talking to people. They say get out of the building and do interviews. So we interviewed in 3 weeks over around 35 people from architecture firms, but also regulation organizations, professional organizations, manufacturers, and so on. And we were testing the assumption that the architecture world, the building world, would love a recycled product. We thought that we would have to tone down the weirdness of the aesthetics. We thought we would have to make it really cheaply. What we learned after talking to people is that, at least in terms of gaining lead points, recycled content is not a big deal because it's only a couple points. We learned that people actually are hungry for customizable and distinctive finishes. We learned that in a certain market, that material choice for a highly visible material is actually not that important. So we narrowed in on our customer segment. We learned a lot, but we really didn't identify the product yet. But there was another insight from our interviews, which was about a new energy standard that's being adopted slowly across different cities, which basically requires a continuous layer of insulation. And this makes rain screen technology a lot more smart for buildings that previously didn't use rain screen technology. And there's a big opportunity in the market because there's not as many options as a lot of these high design architects want to see. So this is where we pivoted away from the monolithic thermocasting that is represented by the column toward a more modular approach. And this pivot was in order to lead us to focusing in on a rain screen panel, which, there's a lot more steps. But for the Prototyping Tomorrow grant, we also wanted to prototype a business model. So we realized we needed to look at rain screen products. What makes up the landscape of rain screen products right now in terms of the technologies that are available, but also what kinds of business models or delivery models do these companies represent? So we're assembling a white paper on our findings to kind of identify what's out there and where there are opportunities. But we also did some case studies looking at delivery models that, let's say, kind of competitor companies represent, and we learned a lot from doing that. So right now we have kind of two prototypes that are coming out of this project. On the one hand, we're in the process of working with an existing backup system from Nightwall Systems in order to design our rain screen panel so it can integrate with an existing backup system. And then the other prototype is the business model. And this Canvas is a tool that's used in this world a lot. So these tools are helping us answer these big remaining questions. On the one hand, the financials and engineering and testing that we need to move forward. And then there's still the question of the specifics of the business model. We could license our technology to a manufacturer, we could partner with an existing company, or we could launch our own startup, which is probably the least likely. I think we're more in the first two categories. And in a way, the prototype is going to help us understand which way to go with that. And I would say that the pivot that we made also forced us to kind of go back to the patent and add an addendum since we kind of shifted the fabrication techniques. And we also learned from our instructors in the course that staying lean and actually moving quickly toward the MVP or the minimum viable product is the way to go. So our goal is to get this on a building maybe sooner than we would have thought in that original time span by kind of partnering with the right people. So once we have our panel and we're going to build a mock-up in the next few months, we're hoping to shop it around and get it on a building sooner. But we're still maintaining the hope of the monolithic post-rock building sometime in the future. So thanks.